morning, this is Dick Zonde, Young's Garden Doctor, and this morning we're going to talk a little bit about raspberries. There are basically two types of raspberries. There are the reds and yellows, and there are the black raspberries. The reds and yellows are raspberries that come from suckers every year, and they will grow new canes out of the ground while the canes that grew last summer are fruiting. And when the season is done, you want to cut the ones that fruited off because they're going to die in the fall anyway. And those new primal canes, which are straight as an arrow, are going to get more sunlight and will grow better if you do that. Now, within the reds and yellows, there are two types of red raspberries. There's the everbearing raspberries and there are the June-bearing raspberries. Now, the newer type everbearing raspberries, they're about the same as the reds, but what happens is the fruit buds are laid down in August and September of the first year, and with the summer bearing varieties like Latham and Boyne and a couple of others that we have, they stay dormant through the fall and winter and blossom and fruit in the summer. And then while they're blossoming and fruiting, the new canes for the following year's crop are coming up through them. With the everbearing raspberries, as soon as the buds are laid down in August and September, they start to flower immediately. And with the newer type everbearing raspberries, they blossom and fruit early enough so that you're getting most of your fruit in the fall. And so with those, you can cut those off at the ground every year so that it puts most of its strength into the canes for the next summer's growth. We're going to mainly concentrate on the red raspberries this year. We've got 5 of them soaking. They're like any other bare root nursery product that we sell. When you get them, if you're not ready to plant, what you want to do is you want to keep them in the packing material, and every 2 or 3 days put a quart of water into the packing material so that the roots don't dry out. And then 24 hours before you plant them, you want to put them in a pail of water with root stimulator in it, which is a product that has fertilizer and a couple of other things that stimulate the roots to grow. So the raspberries have been soaking, and we're going to show you how to plant them. Now, the red raspberries, and all of the raspberries actually, are very susceptible to being planted too deep, and so that's why we wanted to choose raspberries to show bare root. You can see very easily where the raspberries were when they were dug. You can see that right here there's a difference in the color of the cane. And if you don't have that difference in color, you can see that the root system is almost right at the place where you should plant the raspberry. If you plant it this deep, it probably isn't going to grow. So you want to make sure that you're planting the raspberry so that you cover the roots, but you don't cover them by a whole lot. And what will happen then is the raspberry will start to grow. Of course, this is a fruiting cane, and once it's planted, we want to cut it off about 6 inches above the ground because you don't want it to fruit this year. You want the energy of the leaves to go into the root system, and that way it will throw up some suckers for next year's harvest, and in 2 or 3 years you're in full harvest. And so let's plant this thing. So don't have to cut any of these roots off because they're nice and fine. There are no broken roots on, and that's what you would cut off. If you had broken roots on there, you would want to cut them off so you have a clean cut. And so let's plant it. So it was soaked in root stimulator. We've mixed some mica with the soil that we're putting back around the plants because that's a preparation of mycorrhizae, which is a fungus that clusters around the root system and makes nutrients more available to the plant. So we've got our soil hole here, and we've got compost or peat moss mixed in with the black soil. And so you just place it in the hole, and like I said, a very shallow hole, and we're going to put the soil around the plant. You want to completely cover the root system, but that's about it. Okay, so we have the raspberry in the hole. You want to cut it back to about 6 inches above the ground. And now that it's planted, we want to take the water that we soaked them in, put it around the plant so that the air pockets are removed. And that root stimulator, the fertilizer that's in there, will also help stimulate the plant to grow. You get some of the compost from behind there. We have our raspberry planted. Now the other type of raspberry, and I also like to put these soil pellets that we sell that are slow release. You can put those down right next to the root system because they are slow release. Put 2 with each of these. And with red raspberries, you want to plant them about 18 inches apart so that as they throw up more root suckers, they will fill that whole area in. Now with black raspberries, they do not root sucker. They grow long canes, and the canes, wherever they touch the ground, they root and they go again. What we recommend with those is you plant them very similar, very shallow, and as that cane grows, instead of letting it just grow, you cut the top out of it when it gets about 36 inches high, and that will cause branching, and then wherever it branches, it touches the ground, it will root and go again. And with black raspberries, the fruit comes on the canes that grew last summer, and it just keeps doing that. It roots and it goes again, and so it forms more of a thicket than the red raspberries do. The culture with red raspberries after they start to grow is that you want 6 to 8 canes per running foot, and that will give you the maximum production. So we've now planted the red raspberries and talked a little bit about the blacks. This is Dick Zondag, Jung's Garden Doctor, wishing you a very good crop of raspberries in a year or two.